Hi. Good morning, everybody. I'm Hunter. Hello to everybody on Zoom. Good to see your faces here. It's wonderful to be back in church, in person.
Is a
Friends.
lead minister too.
Yeah.
We have like 4 of them retired.
What's that? Oh, okay. New friends, old friends. I have a surprise from my wife, Deej, and my partner, Jim, surprised me by walking him this morning. Uh, this service alone is just it shows how much we as people and as a congregation care about these issues. And the story of Ruby, as Jim said, there is a bomb in Gilead was ethereal, and I understood that was Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite hymn. There's a bomb in Gilead. It's a beautiful, beautiful hymn. Who can follow Joanne's passionate defense of free thought in the temple of free thought, the Unitarian Universalist Church? A colleague of mine, my best friend in the ministry, who was the Northeast District executive for 30 years. He created the group ministry program in our churches, received an honorary doctorate from Star King School for the Ministry. And he wrote me a letter this week, Joanne, that was made many of the points that you made. And he's a person who's been dedicated to all these things that we've been working on. When Todd Eckloff was expelled from the UU Ministers Association, Glenn, after being a member for 50 years, resigned from the UU Ministers Association. So, not because he agrees with everything Todd Eckloff says, but because he thinks that's an infringement of free speech. So, the proposed eighth principle. Let me read it. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. This is making the rounds. This is making the rounds of our congregation, a number of which have voted to adopt this principle. And following this adoption, the Unitarian Association, when it's been new ministers are looking for a church, they've been giving them a list of churches, and if they're a welcoming community, certified welcoming community, they get 1 star. If they're once they pass this, they'll get 2 stars, and so on and so forth. They want the ministers to know, what they're getting into. So we'll be rating our churches. Anyway, Joanne probably knows, I couldn't find on the UUA website how this was written and by whom. Still, I too my heart is in league with those in the church who would like to pass it. I'm grateful to those who worked so diligently to write it. I'm grateful to our BUF members who are leading us through this discussion. I know that your hearts are in the right place. The members of this congregation devote countless hours working with organizations to combat oppression of people of color, LGBTQI, women, the elderly, and others who are so often marginalized. We're also concerned about less obvious yet more pervasive and damaging aspects of oppression, such as white privilege, mass incarceration, institutional racism, voting rights, and our own personal, working on our own personal biases, which we often don't recognize. I believe we should and will continue to be on the front lines in all of these areas. Yeah. Happy birthday to Gloria, who's been one of the ones on the front lines all these years. That said, I would rather not pass the proposed Principle 8. I do not see it strengthening our efforts, but rather a statement that is confusing and, as we know already, a source of contention. Number one, it's an English teacher's nightmare. A run-on sentence, awkwardly worded, mixing too many ingredients in one pot to make a good soup. Two, on first reading, one struggles to understand what it is saying. What is beloved community? Accountably dismantle? Who is accountable? A principle should not require footnotes. A principle should not require footnotes. Three, it's not on the same level of abstraction as the first 7 principles. It is specifically about racism and related oppressions. One could write a similar principle centered on environmental concerns, which, made it incumbent on us to recognize our unity with all of life and so on and so on. It'd be a long, complicated sentence, and we could go through any specific concern or area of concern that we have and have a principle like this. 4, these specific areas of concern follow from the first 7 principles. To me, as we live through history, the focus of application of these principles, such as justice, equity, and compassion, they change because issues change. What's going on in society changes. I'm grateful for this debate. It forced me to think about the principles that we already have. The most important thing to me is not that we pass or don't pass this principle. It's that we continue to love each other in this beloved community, discussing these issues in a way that is kind and respectful and serves to sharpen our commitment.